So on behalf of the Earth Institute, I'd like to welcome you to the final briefings of the Integrative Capstone Workshop in Sustainability Management. My name is George Sarah-Nicolau. I coordinate the workshop course and I advised one of the sections this semester. There were 5 workshop teams in all, working on projects for real-world clients. These clients included a local and an international environmental organization, a local New York City government agency, and a national government. The work that the students do on these projects essentially puts a capstone on a curriculum that includes management, finance and economics, quantitative analysis, and sustainability. And in order to work on these projects and deliver a useful product for the clients, the students must draw on each of those areas of the curriculum. And that's the point. That is the essence of sustainability management, that it takes all of these disciplines to solve the problems that we face. And that brings me to my second point, and that is that sustainability practitioners are essentially problem solvers. And so tonight, we will hear from each of these 5 teams about the problems that they faced and the solutions that they devised. So before we begin, just a couple of words about the logistics of tonight's program. The event is being videotaped, so please silence your cell phones. If you do ask a question after the presentation, please speak up. Between presentations, we'll take a small 5-minute break, and then I will call you back to your seats, and we'll go on to the next presentation, and we'll do that for all 5. And so with that, we'll begin with a project entitled From Promise to Fruition, an analysis of how a sustainability initiative develops through the network of C40 cities. The advisor was Thomas Abdallah, and Richard will give the presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is Richard Zimmerman, and I'm here to present on behalf of my group the results of our capstone project. Our project team was commissioned by C40 to examine bus rapid transit and bike share, determine how and why these programs are rapidly growing across the globe, and see how this phenomena applies to C40 cities. This is what we found. Both bike share and BRT are taking off across the world. These programs bring important social, economic, and environmental benefits. There are a number of factors driving the success of both programs, and C40 has the opportunity to take a greater leadership role in BRT and bike share among the world cities. The C40 is a network of the world's megacities dedicated to taking actions that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It began in 2005 through a partnership with the Clinton Climate Initiative. The C4 cities alone make up 8% of the world's population, release 5% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and together contribute to 21% of global GDP. Because of their global impact, C40 cities have become leaders in driving meaningful action on climate change. Out of the 8 C40 cities, we focus on transportation because it's a sector with the fastest growing greenhouse gas emissions. Plus, improved transportation helps with city livability. Finally, mayors have authority over transportation. Now, one of the things we found is that both BRT and bike share have been growing rapidly. Since 2000, BRT has grown 8-fold. There are currently over 170 BRT systems in the world, and within the last decade, 1 in 3 C40 cities has developed a BRT program. Bike share has a similar story. Over the past 7 years, bike share programs have grown over 500%. There are now more than 500 bike share programs in the world, and 1 in 2 C40 cities has a bike share program. So why are BRT and bike share growing so rapidly? First, BRT and bike share are easier to implement than other mass transit options. Instead of spending years digging an underground tunnel for a subway, BRT can be situated along existing highways or by adding dedicated bus lanes. And bike docks and bikes can be placed on existing roads. BRT and bike share are also cheaper than other transit options, other transit programs. For instance, Istanbul's subway costs about $1.6 billion, while the BRT system costs about $400 million, and bike share only $1 million. Having affordable initiatives is critical for C40 mayors. BRT and bike share also improve the quality of life. Bike share programs have been shown to improve overall health, such as reducing stress, osteoporosis, and obesity through extra physical activity. Both BRT and bike share also decrease air and noise pollution and reduce travel times and traffic congestion. You can see here the efficiency of transporting 60 people by bus or bikes versus cars. BRT and bike share also help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which is a key part of C40's mission. Riding a bike has virtually no carbon footprint, and taking a bus also has significantly lower emissions than a car. In order for a C40 city to realize these benefits, they must institute certain success drivers. These are having a strong public champion, stakeholder engagement, effective funding, having the right technology, and providing quality service. We found the most visible BRT and bike share programs have a visible, we found the most successful BRT and bike share programs have a visible and committed political ally. For instance, London Mayor Boris Johnson is a strong advocate of bike share. In fact, they call the London system Boris's Bikes. BRT and bike share also need engaged stakeholders. These include local government, private companies, local communities, existing transport providers, and patrons. For instance, with Johannesburg's BRT system, the government engaged the existing minibus industry to help transition from a private transit system to a public-private partnership. Another important success driver are the funding mechanisms. There are 4 main funding mechanisms. They are public-private partnerships, and not-for-profits. The most common are public-private partnerships for bikes and public for buses, although there's a mix in both. One example of a public-private partnership funding scheme is Lagos, Nigeria's Lamada BRT system. To fund the infrastructure, the World Bank provided $100 million in credit financing, while the government of Lagos contributed $35 million, and EcoBank Nigeria then underwrote loans to help purchase the first 100 buses. Technology also plays a critical role in the success of BRT and bike share. A typical BRT system includes level platform boarding, prepayment of tickets, quality station, and dedicated lanes. All of these help to make the BRT system more efficient, speedy, and comfortable. In terms of the buses, new hybrid electric or biodiesel buses improve emissions and air quality. Also, the most high-tech buses can control traffic lights through infrared sensors, which allows them to move quickly through intersections. Improved technology also helps bike share. A modern bike share program includes specialized bikes, a network of docking stations, and smart card payment systems. Stations can be solar powered with wireless communication, and bike docks are built with smart locks to help with theft and vandalism. Here's a picture of the first public bike share system in Amsterdam in the 1960s called White Bikes. It was definitely low tech. The city painted 50 bikes white and left them in the streets for people to use for free. That program lasted just a couple days, as most of the bikes were stolen or tossed in the canals. Fast forward and you can see how things have advanced. Bikes are now designed for easy riding and heavy usage. Some bikes are even equipped with GPS systems and LED lights. BRT and bike share must also provide quality service. Buses and bikes must be operable, comfortable, and reliable. And both systems must be affordable and have reduced travel times. One example of a successful BRT program is Bogota's Transmilenio. Prior to the system, 30,000 private bus and taxi operators would drive aggressively, swerving in and out of lanes to compete for travelers. This resulted in unsafe, chaotic conditions and poor air quality, making BRT an obvious solution. In order to implement the program, Bogota had to engage existing bus drivers by offering them an equity stake. Bus operators also had to scrap the older, higher polluting buses and replace them with new clean tech buses. Hold on. Dramatic pause. Transmilenio was a great success. Before, riders would travel 30 kilometers in 2 hours. With BRT, it just takes 50 minutes. The system's now expanded to 84 kilometers and carries nearly 2 million riders a day. The city has seen a decrease in traffic congestion, air and noise pollution, and traffic accidents. City Bike is a good example of a bike share program that utilized all these best practices. The mayor and the Department of Transportation were strong bike share champions. Citibank provided $40 million for funding. Alta, the largest U.S. bike share operator, runs the program. And Bixi from Montreal supplies the latest and best technology. As a result, in just 6 months, City Bike has become the largest bike share program in the nation. It now has 94,000 members. In the first 5 months, City Bike exceeded 5 million rides covering 10 million miles. That's over 400 trips around the earth. The estimated number of calories burned is equal to 732,000 Big Macs or 419,000 pints of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. So what do we think this means for C40? Bike share and BRT are programs C40 should embrace as transportation priorities. They're in the sweet spot of what C40 is all about. Programs that help reduce greenhouse gases and programs that the mayors can lead and implement within their terms. We think the C40 should use their influence and convening ability to drive awareness and implementation of both BRT and bike share. C40 should establish ways to collect data on these programs in order to help the cities compare efforts and learn from their experiences. And they can also use their platform for information sharing among the C40 cities as well as those outside of the network. Thank you very much. Any?
So, any questions for Richard? Yes. Speak up, please.
In comparing the cost effectiveness of bikes, subways, and buses, did you just consider the upfront capital costs or also revenues that could be generated from those?
Yeah, the whole costing is tricky and it's a big subject. And there's a lot of data that you have to gather and a lot of data that's sort of missing. So we looked at it a number of different ways, and there's the cost. So one way would to be do that. Obviously, if you did a whole cost-benefit analysis and you looked at how does it make a trade-off from the revenue earned versus the costs, should you put in the externalities? We didn't see a lot of that. They talk about it, but they didn't factor them in. Some cities share data, some cities don't. But in general, away from the revenue sides, but just the upfront costs, a bus is about $13.5 million per mile just in general to build it, right, to build the system. Light rail is about 38 million, and then a subway can be 100 million to billions. So that's, you start to think about the cost of just sort of putting in the infrastructure. Bikes themselves, cost $1,000 to $5,000 a bike, and up to 15, 20, 30,000 for these bike docks, and anywhere from 5 to 50,000 per sort of mile of dedicated lanes or some kind of bike lanes. In terms of the bikes and revenue, it's probably not a big profit thing, and probably in the same in BRT, but in terms of the importance of the cities and the extra benefits, it is. So you've got to factor that in.
Did you look at all at perhaps like the tipping point between where a city would be successful in changing ridership from just recreation to like actually going to work?
To a system, yeah. It's the whole concept of tipping point's a big one, and actually C40 really asks us to look at, but to try to really get a handle on the data, because it's sort of this organic kind of explosion that's occurring. So, but in both, but certainly in bikes, because they're quicker and easier to do. So where does that occur? What's interesting is, for instance, some cities have a lot of what you may call recreation bikes, just people riding bikes. Copenhagen has a lot. It's a big bike ridership, and so the bike share program actually, they went to institute and actually failed. So because people already ride bikes, and yet now what they're trying to do is do bike share for the last mile and integrate it with other forms of transit. So that's a key part of the story that we wanted to at least fill in the discussion, and that's sort of cool because you could, go ride your bike to the station, order your tickets, get on the bus, get on another bike, and go back and forth. And so that's going to be, if the city doesn't sort of institute it within, they might do it sort of a little bit around.
Okay. I'll invite you to seek Richard during the break to ask him that question, just to stay on schedule. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much.